Hello, my name is Simon and welcome to AFC Bournemouth Analysis. Here's my take on our 4-0 home win over Huddersfield Town. Obviously with a 4-0 win, there's quite a lot to be positive about, as you can imagine. The greatest was that Callum Wilson is back. Obviously he played against Newcastle away last time, in our last league game, but he's back and firing now. After missing that one-on-one against Newcastle, he scored a hat-trick against Huddersfield, and they were all pretty imperious finishes, including his finish for his third, where he smashed it like a thunderbolt when it went to the bottom corner. Him and King up front look at terrifying partnership for opposition defences, and also obviously we were reduced to 10 men on the stroke of half-time due to the foolishness of Simon Francis, and we managed to look even more comfortable defensively in the second half, where we had to play the whole second half with 10 men, and obviously we scored 2 goals on the break. Huddersfield created very little. We looked very solid. Obviously we've been reduced to 10 men in the past at Man United away and Leicester away a season before that, and we've held out. So yeah, the team looked incredibly well organised at the back. After we got a man sent off, ironically. Before that we were looking a bit shaky, but I'll get to that. Nathan Ake in particular was superb. If it wasn't for Callum Wilson's hat-trick, he would have easily been man of the match, but obviously goals get headlines, so you can't really argue with Wilson being named man of the match. But Ake was superb. Cook looks like he's improving in that side of the centre-back partnership that he's not entirely comfortable with. Daniels was solid again. And yeah, there was a lot to be positive about. There were some negative elements. The first 15 minutes or so we were completely outplayed. Huddersfield played exactly like you'd expect a newly promoted side from the Championship would play, with real vigour. They were playing some great passing moves, and they really should have taken the lead before we did. We got a lot of luck, but I'll get to that later. But yeah, we were outplayed, and really we scored the goal against the run of play, and from that point on they never really recovered, and they were quite poor for the rest of the match, especially the second half, where they didn't really cause us any problems at all. In terms of problems to ourselves, midfield still doesn't look quite right. Harry Arter grew into the game, but still doesn't quite look top level. Sermon was fine, but there's just not a huge amount of forward running and creativity in midfield at the moment, and that is a concern, because as good as Wilson and King look up front, they definitely need service to make it happen. So against the better teams, we might struggle if the midfield isn't firing. Obviously Lewis Cook was preferred by many fans to play over Arter, but after Arter scored the decisive third goal, you could argue that he should keep his place. Other than that, Simon Francis was a liability yet again at the back, getting sent off. He's not a right back. He got roasted by Scott Malone quite a lot, including for one where Scott Malone really should have scored, but it flashed wide. Francis just doesn't look up for it in that position. I'm not sure what Howe has to see for him to drop him, but fortunately we get a chance to see Adam Smith in right back against Swansea next week, because obviously Francis has to play out his suspension. So yeah, there are still problems in the team, but the fact that we won 4-0 despite that is quite good. The ugly was without doubt Lee Probert's performance as referee. Obviously, if there's any Huddersfield fans watching this, they'll probably think that he was worse for them than he was for us, and you probably have a case there, because our first 2 goals probably shouldn't have stood. I say probably. The first one obviously came from a corner that shouldn't have been, because Daniels slid in to Huddersfield's right winger and took him out, and somehow it wasn't a foul. And the second one, Wilson was marginally offside. So yeah, the luck went for us in those decisions, but there were just numerous decisions that went against both sides. Wilson was fouled when he was going to be a one-on-one with the keeper in the second half, and it should have been a sending off for a Huddersfield player. There were numerous bookings for both teams, but it was very inconsistent. There was fouls given for, and there were yellow cards given for certain fouls, but then exactly the same fouls on both sides, and sometimes there weren't bookings. So yeah, Lee Probert lost it long before the end, and it was a very poor performance from him, but fortunately the run where we win under him every time has continued. Without doubt, Callum Wilson completing his hat-trick, as I mentioned, it was a wonderful strike to complete it. It just smacked of, I'm back, and it was great to see. And you saw how much it meant to the fans and the players with the wild celebrations of after the goal. A couple of contributions, so thanks so much for that, both on Twitter. The first is from Steve Wright, who is Steve Wright 70, and he said, "Excellent result considering we started poorly. They pressed high and kept the ball well. 2 goals knocked the stuffing out of them. Wilson back to his old self with a hat-trick." Huddersfield would definitely be agreed with the decisions, but the way they performed after going a couple of goals down will be a concern, because they just didn't look like getting back into the game at all. That's definitely something they've got to address. It can be the teams are ruthless at this level, and they've discovered that on Saturday. I remember when we were on the end of similar kind of results when we first went up, so hopefully they'll be alright, because I do like Huddersfield. Second, David Yates, who is David N. Yates on Twitter, said, "Didn't play great and won 4-0 with 10 men. Can't complain. We do look more solid defensively, very organised when down to 10. We looked superb when we went down to 10. I say superb, we looked superb defensively. We looked like we knew exactly what we were doing, and that's great to see. I think Callum Wilson mentioned that they practiced it on the training pitch in the last couple of weeks, which is very convenient. And it's clearly paid off. And you'd think a team like Bournemouth would be a soft touch if they went down to 10 men, but we're not at all. We've played very well when we're up against it, and down to 10, which is great. So that's all for this video. Obviously a great win. 2 wins in a row now, and I think that's 4 wins out of 5 in all competitions, so there's definitely a lot of momentum heading into our trip to Swansea, which looks like another game we could potentially get points from, which is great. But thanks so much for those contributions as well, and you can get involved by following AFCB Analysis on Twitter and Facebook. The URLs are here. Let me know your thoughts before and after games, and I'll read out your thoughts at the end of each video. I also write for Yahoo Sport UK about AFC Bournemouth, and my latest post is on Callum Wilson and how he could make a late run to Russia to join the England squad. Maybe hopeful, but you never know. So you can check that out by clicking on the URL in this video's description. Thanks so much for watching, and up the cherries in all departments.